If you've been wanting to try acrylic markers but aren't sure where to start, I just purchased 4 of the most common brands, and we're going to test which one of them is the best acrylic marker for your art. Today, we're working with Montana, Liquitex, Posca, and Molotow. All 4 markers are available at most major art retailers, and I decided to go with the 15mm nibs because that's the size I'm most excited to use. However, each brand does have various sizes to choose from. I also selected a variety of colors that I personally enjoy using, but each brand has different colors available in this 15mm size, and I'll go over that with each marker. Let's start with the Montana brand acrylic marker. This is the Shock Green Light color, and it's the cheapest marker I purchased at $9.32. After shaking and pushing up and down on the nib, we have this beautiful color. I am working on a generic drawing paper here, but later on, we're going to try all of these markers on another surface as well. And here are all of the different line widths I can make with this marker. Montana has 26 different colors in the 15mm size, which is quite a lot. They're all good basic colors that I think have a fairly wide appeal and usage. Plus, Montana markers are refillable and you can even mix your own colors. So the options are endless. The Montana marker does seem to have a lot of runny paint. The marker is very wet and left some splatters as well. The line also isn't incredibly crisp, which is not really what I'm looking for in a marker. Next, we'll move on to the Liquitex. Seeing another artist using Liquitex was what got me excited to purchase acrylic markers in the first place. But after doing some research, I found that it isn't always a favorite for artists. However, the price was only $9.43 for me, and I could find up to 50 colors in the 15mm size, which is the most variety of pre-made colors compared to the other brands. When I was ordering these markers, it was so hard for me to choose just one color out of all of those 50 choices because so many of them looked so much fun to use. But today I'm using the light pink. I definitely think Liquitex dries the fastest, but it did leave a tiny bit of splatter. And moving on to the next marker, I think Posca might be the most well-known brand for acrylic markers. I personally love using my smaller nibbed Poscas for doodling. However, the 15mm in Posca only has 10 colors to choose from, which is really limiting for the art that I do. Today, I'll be using their light blue color. My price for this Posca was $9.99, which is a little more expensive than Liquitex and Montana, but not by much. I also found this marker to be very wet. It is pooling and gushing out of the pen, and I can't make as thin of a line as I can with the others. Finally, we have the Molotow. This is the most expensive marker by far at a $15.90 price point. Like the Montana, they're also refillable and you can mix your own colors. The 18 pre-made colors I found were actually some really lovely options, and I hope I get a chance to try out more of their colors. I decided to go with the vanilla pastel color. I do really love the smooth, crisp lines of the Molotow, and I feel like I have more control over where the color is going. Here is how they all compare on paper. Most acrylic markers can be used on a variety of papers, canvases, and other surfaces. So let's try making marks on this cardboard. Starting with the Montana and working our way down the same order, I'm noticing the colors are much more see-through than I thought. The Posca is clearly the best, but that makes sense because it is the wettest marker. To do them all justice, I'm going to go back and pump in more ink and layer it over some more, just to try to force some opacity. But even with the extra paint, Posca is clearly the winner. Molotow is up there, but Montana and Liquitex just can't keep up on the cardboard. It could just be the color I chose, but I do think Posca creates their paint with other surfaces in mind. I also want to see how they interact on top of the other colors. Here are all of the colors in a line, as well as an extra black line. And you do have to wait until everything is dry before you add another layer on top. And here are all of the 4 options over all of that. Again, Posca covers the best. Montana does well too, but again, I'm not sure if the opacity problem is because of my color choices or the paint brands themselves. But this is still a good test to see how they interact with each other. Now let's try using different mediums on top of the acrylic markers. I want to be able to try mixed media with these markers, and I want to see which of my tools will work the best. I do really like the look of colored pencils on top. I think it looks good on all of these different brands. Other acrylic markers obviously do a good job over top of it, but it seems really hard to draw with ink markers over top of the paint. And the Posca paint specifically does not take on the Micron or Copic markers well. I do want to experiment one more time just with creating kind of a full, quick piece. What I love most about acrylic markers is that I can add big swaths of color without having to take time to get all of my paints out. And I can stop my project midway and get back to it when I need to without worrying about the paint drying. Acrylic markers are just a really great way to paint without as much mess and hassle. Overall, I'm really happy with all of these brands. All of the markers went down smoothly and have beautiful color. But I think Posca is probably the best all-purpose acrylic marker. However, it's not going to be my first choice because I really like the 15mm size and there are only 10 colors to choose from. Montana is definitely my least favorite choice. The paint just doesn't go down quite as smoothly and I don't always get a nice clean line. Molotow is just too expensive compared to the others, but it is a great choice if you are looking for the refillable marker option. As for me, I'll probably purchase more Liquitex in the future because it dries faster and it's not too wet and it will apply really smoothly. Hopefully this video helped you decide which brand you'd like to try. Acrylic markers are a pretty big investment, so I recommend purchasing just 1 or 2 markers at first, just to decide if incorporating them into your artistic practice is worth the price. You may also benefit from trying out different brands like I did today. Every marker brand will work better for a different artist. But for now, I'm excited to use all of my new markers and try some new colors in the future. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this acrylic marker exploration, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy drawing!